Welcome to Delightfully Dysfunctional, a podcast about navigating the emotions of the human condition and the challenges that come with it. I'm Kaylani Persian Mason, a psychotherapist and life coach with James Timmons, an ever-curious human. This is not a replacement for mental health therapy. Please seek out mental health care if that's what you're needing. This is an opportunity for self-healers to dive deep and understand more about themselves. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Neil. Neil is a conscious entrepreneur, and I'm really excited. I've gotten to learn so much from him already and doing some work with him, but I'm excited for him to share more about how he really creates a life that is in alignment with his values and his goals. So thank you and welcome, Neil.
Yes, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. A conscious entrepreneur. Can you describe to us what that means?
So I think different people would have a different definition of what that is, but my definition is, an entrepreneurial spirit, who wants to make a difference in the world.
Hmm.
We want to make positive change in the world. We want to help the world move in a more positive direction with the services and how we're showing up to the world. So
Right. Okay. And what services do you feel that are kind of in your heart to offer to the world? What is it that you try to cultivate?
so so my main personal mission is to help other entrepreneurs share their gifts with the world. So I typically work with coaches or people who are in the personal transformation world who help other people transform their lives. I like to act as a catalyst or a spark for those people to ignite them and reach more people and help more people and dial in all the different parts that it takes to do that. Um, and kind of on a deeper level or a more broad level, I'm here to help people kind of get across the bridge to a new world in a sense. I want to help humanity. I want to be part of the movement that helps humanity awaken spiritually and physically and move into a new way of living, essentially, more heart-centered, more empathic, more compassion, more honor, more respect for each other, for the earth, and
Mm,
everyone. So I feel like I'm on team human in that regard, and
I love
and just
that.
yeah, trying to be a part of as many projects and different businesses and different organizations that are helping with that
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
beautiful. Also, like as you described it as a catalyst, that's very much what I felt when I was working with you. Not that I'm like continually plugging, you know, everyone should work with Neil if you're doing some type of business that's in that helping field of wanting to help and promote higher consciousness and better values for the world, but also just as a person, you definitely help with that catalyst feeling of like giving a direction. And so that was really a lovely part of working with you and that desire to really be a part of the team. I
Right.
think, yeah, like I want to be a part of the team and help and be involved in projects that you're really passionate about.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. And for you, this really meant breaking out of a box of what the norm is that many people are still stuck in. And whether it's that like 9 to 5
Mhm.
job or the framework for whatever career that they have had for a long time, just like believing that's the only way to do it. So,
Mhm.
what was that process like for you?
So yeah, that's a great question. And it takes me back to, my early to mid 20s when I was going through that shift of wanting to break out of, society's norms and what my parents expected of me and what everybody else expected of me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it was in my early 20s, and I had some sort of started waking up to how the world actually worked, to who we are as people, as souls in these bodies, and started having these realizations. And yeah, it's very difficult to let go of all the old things and to embrace the new. And it was definitely one of the harder times when you're first beginning to move out of what's expected of you and what others expect of you, and you kind of start to do your own thing and discover who you actually, who I actually was. So yeah, what was the exact question
No,
again relating to
I
that?
just
It's got
that
me thinking of
process,
so
and
many things.
yeah, good. No, it kicked off a lot, and I think that you're totally in the same direction of just what was that process like for you? So you're saying like, you had to wrestle with the expectations of your parents and your family and friends, and just there's a little bit of discomfort as you're breaking away from what's the heavy obligation that we might feel.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And it's like a feeling where I knew in my heart where I was being called to go, but
Mm,
there's like my programming in my mind was so attached to the past, and
right.
yeah, just trusting that pulse, trusting that
Mm,
intuitive signal to move. And yeah, that process is was clunky and hard.
mm,
um, and I remember countless times just crying, moving through the emotions of letting go. I had gone to college for engineering, and I had
ah,
completed my degree, and then I was in the world of engineering for a year, and I just couldn't do it. I could not see myself living that life. I could not see
right.
myself living in that world. And as I became aware of the circumstances we're in as a humanity and as a planet, you know, I had the level of, I guess, integrity within myself to really honor that and commit to, I basically said, there's no way I can work in a
Mm,
world or in a job that's contributing to maintaining how the world already is. I have to be
right.
working and putting my energy into changing the way that the world is and changing the way we operate as human beings. I almost had like a moment of like a hard line I had to
Ah,
draw with myself
right.
where I was willing to give up everything and anything to live in that world versus that world, because
Right.
I was just done with it.
Yeah, suffering can serve a real purpose to help us find direction. So you were very attuned to how it was not compatible with your values, your belief system, and a shift was really needed.
Totally, totally. And the pain of living in that world
Right.
was now, the pain of making the change was less than the pain of staying in that world. And I think that
Yeah,
as humans, that's when we make big changes, is when we can no longer
exactly.
tolerate the reality we're living in. And
Exactly. Yeah.
it's hard either way. So you can
Right.
pick or
Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
your
Choose your kind of
hard.
hard. But yeah, when you accept the reality of what is and what isn't available, then I think you can make some wiser choices.
Yeah.
And in that, what do boundaries, what role does that play in staying aligned with your goals? How has that developed over time for you?
Ooh. Yeah, that's definitely been a developmental process
Right.
for
Yeah, we're
me.
all right, all of us.
You
There's just a
know,
new layer.
this whole new layer, and I don't even think I learned that word. I'm 37 now, and I started this journey when I was maybe 22, so about 15 years ago. So, I didn't even really know what boundaries were, I don't think, for the first 10 years of that journey.
Right.
The last five is really where I learned what boundaries were, and I learned like relationally how much relationships can affect things and people and my time and being able
Mhm.
to say no, not being a people pleaser, getting rid of that nice guy
Right.
conditioning inside of us where we always just want to say yes and show up and make everyone happy around us. Yeah, I did that for the first 10 years of this journey on
Hmm.
the other side, and yeah, and it slows things down a lot.
Hmm.
The, yeah, you could call it success, or aligning with the reality that you truly want to live in, and aligning with the person that you truly want to become.
Hmm.
um Boundaries play a pivotal role in how that unfolds. With weak boundaries, it's going to unfold much slower. It might not even unfold.
Right.
And
Yeah.
with
Some people will feel like they need to kind of maintain whatever that status quo is and not realize that they have more free will to really create that
Yeah,
life that they want.
Yeah, and not realizing the impact that other people that we allow into our bubble or into our world have
Right.
on us. It's kind of a blind spot, I think,
Mm,
until you really start, connecting those dots on a deeper level, the relational patterns that can
right.
be playing out under the surface.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, as lovely as, my parents are, and they did a fairly good job raising me overall. Of course, I would have some things that I disagreed with.
Yeah. We all.
Yeah, like creating space with them and having boundaries
Mhm.
with my parents and not letting them treat me how they treated me maybe when I was a kid as an adult. And, yeah,
Right.
those are some of the harder ones to come up against.
Mm.
Relationally. And then, of course, there's time as well, boundaries around your time
Yeah,
and
and
your
time
your root
management.
time
Right.
management and allowing yourself to give yourself what you need throughout the day without saying yes to things that you don't actually want to be doing or that might take away your energy versus give you energy.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's like fine tuning the boundaries on the relational component and then the time side of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, and I think it's a lifelong kind of journey to continue
Right.
improving.
What are
Yeah.
some of the key things that help you stay in alignment?
So key things that help me stay in alignment are following my formula. So following my daily routine that I know works for me and staying in tune with my plan for the bigger picture of what I'm creating. So,
Mm.
staying really connected to my why, the reason why I'm doing it, and what matters most to me that day. And my morning routine is kind of, I would say, the biggest factor to kind of keep me consistent and keep me feeling aligned. I know if I get up at a certain time and I do 2 to 3 hours of my morning practices and focusing and getting all the
Hmm.
engines fired and my mind moving in the right direction and focused on the right things, it's pivotal for
Hmm.
me. So if I miss my morning routine, my day pretty much is predictable that it won't go that great. But if I hit my morning routine and I check in with my notes and my goals and check in with myself and take time to meditate and breathe and exercise and center myself and
Hmm.
connect with God, um, things go really well. So, overall, like having a strategy, a plan for my life, having short-term and long-term goals, and then filtering that down into what my daily routine needs to look like and staying true to that, is I think for me it's a big part of staying in alignment.
Right, right. It gives you that
Yeah,
structure and kind of energy to fulfill the goals in the day.
totally. Otherwise, my patterns and subconscious stuff can take over and pull me this way and pull me that way, or I'll get distracted by something.
Right.
And of
So
course, I'm
sometimes,
not. Yeah.
no, go ahead. I
Yeah, I'm
just,
not like that every day, like
right.
super structured. There's days where I'm flexible and time off and stuff, but in
Mhm.
general, for the momentum of my life to move in the right direction, there's so many days a week that I need to hit well.
Right, right.
So
And it's not just boundaries then with individuals and people, but the boundaries that you give to like, this is my sacred time that I need, even though maybe there's a part of you that probably wants to sleep in or might want to do something completely different that morning. It's giving yourself that, well, nope, this is good for you.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like having, hard lines. It's if
Hmm.
you can create hard lines in your life where they're non-negotiables, like this is a non-negotiable thing
Right.
for me. And I think every day, every person deserves some non-negotiable
Hmm.
time frame in their day. And as I have a wife and I have 4 kids, and I see what my wife goes through and how much more difficult it is for her to carve out that time, that non-negotiable time. But
Hmm.
it's still doable, and I support it and I try to help make it happen. Um, so, like in the morning, for example, if I wake up in bed and I'm up for 5 or 10 minutes, then I get out of bed, no matter what
Mhm.
time it is. If I'm up for 5 to 10 minutes, I'm not just going to keep laying there or try to fall back to sleep. If I'm awake, I have a hard line where, okay,
Mhm.
I'm awake, time to get up.
Right.
And I get up
Right.
and start my day. So yeah, just little
Mhm.
um, commitments, micro commitments that allow it to hold it accountable.
Micro
Uh,
commitments. I like that because I think sometimes it feels overwhelming for people to think of all the habits they would need to change, but we could
right.
start small.
Yeah, totally start small, start with where you're at. And yeah, it's I have my one of my mentors, my more of like a life coach type of
Mm-hmm.
mentor. His kind of slogan is it's all about the day. So,
Mm,
if you can just take it one day at a time, one moment at a time, and create these micro rituals or micro habits that trigger you to then move in a certain direction. Um, yeah, that's a really great place to start. And
yeah.
and of course, whatever time I go to bed determines what time I get up in the morning.
Yeah,
So
that's the trick. That's the trick over here too.
yeah. So
Um, in your experience, how do you find ways to really guide your clients to trusting their intuition or their wisdom? Like, what are some ways that you might help them tap into that?
yeah, so I think like ways of helping them tap into their intuition are, a good question would be like, what's a time in the past where you had an intuitive nudge and you trusted it?
Mm,
And what ended up happening? So just getting them
mm,
to connect with, oh, and typically it's like, oh, this amazing thing unfolded after it made no sense at the time. And then that's typically the answer.
yeah.
So just
Reminding
everyone's
them what it
hat.
feels like to be in
Yeah.
touch
And
with your intuition, right?
yeah, yeah. And what happened. And so to help them build trust with that part of
Mm,
themselves by, reflecting on the past circumstances where
mhm.
when you did trust your intuition, good things happened. And that's typically what happens. So, and sometimes it doesn't, I'm sure, but typically with when I do that, it makes them realize, oh yeah, yeah, and just helping people, like a big thing I do with people is helping them get clear and admit what they actually want.
Mm,
So like filtering down, and then helping them give themselves permission to say, yes, you can have that. You can
mm,
have that reality. You can follow that nudge. You can, like, you're allowed to. You can
right.
like be on your own team,
Mm,
and I find once that like permission window goes up and people are like, oh no, I don't have to like shut that down. I can allow it.
yeah, allow it to
Um,
be a possibility.
yeah, allow it to
Yeah.
be a possibility and open up to it and begin to move towards it and see what happens. Um, yeah, that permission slip to yourself
Right.
is, once you get used to handing yourself permission slips, it gets easier and easier. And
Mm-hmm.
and then it's quick, you can follow those nudges quicker and more effortlessly and have more trust and confidence in
Yeah.
moving in that way. So
In your own evolution as an entrepreneur, what are some examples of when you trusted your intuition and it really paid off for you?
yeah, so going back to my engineering job, my parents, helped pay for the school, and I went through the whole thing, and
Yeah.
they
I
had all
didn't know
these
that you had
fresh.
an engineering degree either. I cannot
Oh
picture
yeah,
it. So that's funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I did not fit into the college school system. Like that was my most depressed time for sure. It's not funny. I was
Right.
depressed. Like that's
Right.
the
It
one
didn't
time I could say
feel
where I was,
not in a
yeah,
good place. Right. And
not in a good place.
it wasn't where you were wanting to go at all. You couldn't even see yourself doing that, it sounds like.
No, no, I couldn't see myself doing that. Once I got into it, I couldn't believe the culture and just how I was just
Ah,
so tired of it all. So, at that time, my wife was in holistic nutrition school in Vancouver. And she was, when I was just starting my first year working, she was in her second year nutrition school. So maybe like a year and a half after I was working as an engineer. Um, we had this kind of light bulb moment go off where we were like, you know what, we want to teach people how to eat healthy and how to clean their bodies and how to detox. And, at the time, organic food wasn't even really talked about much. It wasn't really in
Mhm.
the grocery stores. This was kind of right before the health uh, trend
Mhm.
really took off. So, we wanted to get out and share that with the world. And that was kind of the intuitive pulse that came through both of us, and we
Mhm.
would we would build each other up. And I had to quit that job and jump 2 feet into that world.
Yeah.
And it was so scary and it wasn't easy, and lots of ups and downs and roller coasters for years before things smoothed out. But
Mhm.
now I can say that decision has led me to the life that I now get to live today.
Yeah.
And I could have never, you know, prior to that time, I would have never imagined that this was, possible for me, or that I would be living this reality, or have this much, control over my time and even my
Mhm.
finances, and how I get to live my life. So yeah, it was scary. It made no sense. Nobody supported it in our families. My parents wouldn't barely talk to me. They were so mad at me. I lost all my friends from high school. We lost pretty
Oh,
much lost everything taking that leap, because it was so different at the time, and nobody had been doing social media coaching or work yet.
right.
So even that part was different. So even from a business standpoint, my father-in-law, who was our business mentor, was like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're just like, me and my wife. That's it. That's where the two that believed in it, that saw the
Right.
vision, and we just had to be like, "You're gonna have to trust us and wait and see." And I'm
Hmm. That's
like,
a lot of, I mean, that says a lot as well about the trust within your relationship because you were both having to really be on the same page because there was so much doubt kind of surrounding you.
yeah, 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 totally. And it was being each other's cheerleaders, and
Yeah, I think it definitely
and
helps when you
yeah.
have a cheerleader. That might be part of the team, is make sure you find your cheerleader.
Yeah, totally. Someone's got to bring the energy
Yeah.
and keep things going. And when we're at like our lowest point and want to give up, which happens, I've wanted to give up hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I have moments where I'm like, oh my God, I gotta, what do I do?
Well,
So
also now, like you've added a few other creatures to the crew. So how many animals, and tell us a little bit about the property that you own now, because this is the life you've created.
yeah, so you know, as we were launching Ground Nutrition, I always had this vision of owning a retreat center, owning a retreat property. I just pictured animals, kids, people doing healing work, sound baths, cold dipping, eating healthy, just happening on a piece of land, just this
Yeah,
beautiful
move me in.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, just this beautiful place. And I always had that vision right from the get-go. And just the last, 2.5 years, it kind of came out of nowhere and came into fruition, and we were able to make it happen. And yeah, we ended up purchasing a 40-acre retreat property in British Columbia, Canada, and to live out this vision that we've had. And yeah, in that time, we've gotten really into regenerative homesteading. So, providing our own food for ourselves, learning how to provide our own power, our water. We have a creek running through the property where our water is gravity fed to our house. So, um, we're fairly self-sufficient out here, and it's been a major learning curve the last 2.5 years, because I came from just a regular house with a
Yeah.
garden and stuff to this
Yeah, you just
big
normal
homestead retreat
neighborhood. Right. Yeah, that's a
thing, and
big
it's a
transition.
massive learning
I've
curve.
reversed. We had like 100 acres and bison and llamas and a big garden when I grew up, and now I'm in suburbia, and I'm like, how'd I get here?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
uh,
the contrast is interesting. So yeah, we've accumulated some animals. So we have, a few pigs, and we have 5 goats, and my wife milks the goats every day, so we get fresh raw goat milk on tap basically. And we have 7 ducks. Um and we have 3 cats and 4 dogs. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
4 kids,
And
four
pork, yeah,
kids
yeah. Make sure
under
don't
the age
forget
of
them.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right. So life is busy. It's all these good things, but it's a lot of things that need tending to.
a lot of things that need tending to, and that comes from our ability to tend to ourselves over the year, and it's just an
Mm.
extension of how we've individually learned how to
Mm.
tend to ourselves and how we've learned how to tend to our partnership and
Yeah.
and our union, and that through that capacity
Hmm.
growth of consistency and showing up all these years, yeah, we're able to, I guess, hold everything that we now have, on our plate.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to like the intuition question. It's like there's all these little moments of having to do something that doesn't really make sense. It's just
Hmm.
this intuitive pull. And the sooner you can just follow that and move into it, those intuitive, it's almost like those intuitive moments give you an opportunity to jump timelines or almost
Mm.
leap into a new level of your reality.
Right.
And
Yeah, I like it.
when,
I put myself in a video game now. Do 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 do.
yeah, yeah, it's like you
Level
could
up.
keep going down this path, or you could take this little sparkly thing where you don't really know what's going to happen, but it sure looks cool and
Right.
it feels cool and it's way brighter, and you're thinking about it all the time, and it's scary
Hmm.
because you don't know what's beyond it, but
Right. It's
you know,
always scary. It always has to be some
always
kind
scary.
of a risk. I don't know anyone who's like, oh, that was just this easy sidestep over to my dream thing. You always
Yeah,
have to
no.
put in some effort, some risk.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you compound enough of those moments over time, I think it's going to lead you to that beautiful life that you feel inside yourself. And I
Yeah.
know that's at least what's happened for me. And I've seen it happen to a lot of friends and people in my world. And um,
Yeah. Share a little bit
yeah.
about some of the people you've worked with and how you've helped be that catalyst for them.
Yeah. So, typically people who come to work with me are feeling, um, at a point where they're lacking clarity, lacking direction. They're at a point where they want that next level of reality so bad, and they've been
Mm.
hanging on that kind of edge, or this playing in
Hmm.
this level right below it for so long that they're at the point where they're like, I have to get there, and I'm ready to do it. Like, I don't care what it takes. Like
Hmm.
this, I can't. The pain of living down here is now outweighing the pain that it's going to take to make these changes and move through to this next layer. So a lot of what I do is, helping people find clarity, helping people tune into their intuition, and people, helping entrepreneurs mostly um, sort out both their, it's personal and business, but sort out the
Right.
clutter and rearrange things and realign things so that it matches the reality that they're wanting to live in.
Right. I
And
love that you combine that, the personal and the business, because as you were even talking about how things have evolved in your life, you made sure to also tap into the importance of the partnership or the rituals and the taking care of your body as well. And that's part of this conscious entrepreneurship is having a very holistic perspective. Because I think we have lots of examples out there of people who are over prioritizing success and achievement. And then let's
mhm,
really look at what's going on with their meaningful relationships, with their family, with their friends. And
yeah,
that's not what the goal is when we're talking
no,
about conscious entrepreneurship.
no, yeah, yeah. That's a really good point, because we live yeah, in that culture where material success and money's kind of put it up on a pedestal
Right.
as like the number one thing.
And there's
And
so
it's
many
like,
examples of people who reach all the things that they thought they always wanted, and they look
yeah,
around and it's not what they wanted.
yeah, it's not it doesn't feel the way they thought it was gonna feel, and it's not as fun, or they're not as, fulfilled
Yeah.
once they get there.
It's like,
And
oh shit. They're looking around and they're like, this isn't, I sacrificed so much and this isn't what I thought.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I've seen so many, I've been seeing that in my world for a very long time. And I knew that's not what I wanted. I did want it at one point when I was
Hmm.
18, 19, maybe 20. That's what I thought I wanted. Um, but yeah, we're so conditioned to want to do that. But really at the end of the day, it's like, how are you feeling inside of your body? Like, are
Hmm.
you fulfilled? Do you
Right.
feel free? Do you feel
Right.
like really how do you feel once you're there? And that's
Mm.
what it really comes down to. And there's another study um asking, older men kind of in their last years or their deathbed, like
Mhm.
what would you change or what's the number one regret you have or what, and it's always I wish I would have spent more time with my family.
Yeah.
Across the board, number one answer. Not I
Yeah.
wish I would have took that extra project. I wish I would have bought that nicer car, bigger house.
Yeah.
It's never that stuff. That's
Right.
not what
No,
really matters.
not the
We're
material
conditioned.
things.
Yeah,
Right.
we're conditioned and trained to think the material's the top, but
Mm.
our human soul and our hearts and our bodies, that's not what that's not
Yeah.
what does it. And
No, and along that line, some of the other in the top five of things that people say when they're on their deathbed are, I wish I would have lived a life more true to myself.
right.
I wish I would have spent more time with friends and meaningful people in my life. And just, I wish I wouldn't have worked so much or so hard.
Yeah.
So it's all in alignment with that. And if we could kind of honestly live with the end in mind, like that's the common denominator here. We all know that we will find some kind of ending and this life isn't forever. I think it puts things in perspective a little bit more that like this is a precious time. How do we want to use it?
Yeah, totally. And then learning how to be like honest with what you're actually feeling in your body. Like, what do you love to do? Who do you
Yeah.
love to be around? What do you like for hobbies? What do you love doing for your hobby?
Hmm.
Where do you want to spend your time? What fills your heart and your soul and fills you up on that
Yeah.
deeper level, more than other things? And it could be anything. And it could be buying nice cars and racing them around. It totally could be.
Hmm.
And it could be attached to higher level material and money success, and that is true for some people. But it's the game of learning to be honest with yourself. When I go
Yeah.
spend 4 or 6 hours in my garden, it's not getting me it's not creating material success for me. I mean,
Mm.
there's food in there, food security, but I love growing my own food. I love feeding
Mhm.
that to my family. And genuinely, I just love spending time around plants and the animals and having my hands in the dirt and just being a part of that ecosystem. Like nothing feels better to me at this point in my life than doing that
Yeah.
activity right now. It fills me up on a soul level. So I
Right.
make sure it's a big part of my life,
Hmm.
regardless of how much money I'm making or any of that. I'm not going to sacrifice that part of me,
Hmm.
um, for a false, you know,
Right. And I
like a
think no matter if someone's in an entrepreneur or if they're in a company that is kind of leeching their life force from them, which isn't every person who's in a company. There's lots of people who enjoy working for companies, but the category of people that really don't feel that they're getting that life sustaining energy back, I think often we've like just numbed ourselves. And so a lot of what you do is probably just reacquainting people with their intuition, their body, their own wisdom. And then what do we do with that information? Because I think it can almost be scary to realize it, because that must mean I have to make some changes.
totally. Yeah, that's exactly what ends up happening is just helping people admit to themselves what they're actually feeling about things and
Mm,
giving them a safe platform to say like, no, you can say that if you don't like it or it makes you feel a certain way, you're allowed to get it out here and now. And then we can make some changes and start to focus on what you do actually want.
right.
Because so much of the time we're caught in like what we don't like, and it can kind of blind us. It can kind of put the blinders on, and we show
Mhm.
up and we just keep rinsing and
Mhm.
repeating without actually looking at the 360
Right.
view of the potential and the possibility,
Mhm.
around you. Like every human has so much potential and possibility in their field. And we
Mm.
think there's only this one option or this option, but there's so many options,
Mhm.
and even just to let your mind, whether it's through meditation practice or journal practice, it's like letting yourself go there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in schools and as kids, that part of us is shut down, like the creativity, the
Mhm.
imagination, the thinking of what's possible, the bringing nothing into something, that didn't
Mhm.
exist before into my life. We're not trained to think like that, so we just settle for what is, and act like we don't have a choice or control, but we have so much more control than we realize, and there's so many options to think about.
Right,
um,
right.
it could yeah, it can, that's a big part of it, right? So it's like seeing where you want to go, admitting that you don't like being here, and then being able to see where you would actually like to go. And now that you have those two things, you can start to take
Right.
actionable steps towards it.
Mhm. So what you offer is really this holistic approach, and that's definitely how I felt when I was working with you. You weren't just concerned about the direction that the business was going, but how it was fitting with other things that come up in life, just like all of us have surprises. You had a huge surprise this summer because you were caught up in like the Canadian wildfire stuff going on. And so like there's part of that holistic approach that I really appreciated was being able to gauge an ebb and flow with what's
Yeah,
needed. And
yeah,
what can you share about like developing that approach and your perspective to living more holistically?
yeah. I think, and again, it comes back to the body. It's like how, disease and illness
Mhm.
forms, and how, when you get backed up in a certain category of life and you almost forget about it because you're pushing so hard in this other category, well,
Mhm.
that's going to come up to the surface one day, and it's going to
Right,
rock you
right.
when
I
you're
think
older,
yeah, the stress level when I mean the top diseases in that I'm sure they're the same in Canada as America, I'm not sure, but like they're all stress related.
yeah, for
And
sure.
so I think that's something we definitely need to pay attention to. Like my husband talks about the people that have worked their way up in his company, and he's like, they're all sick. They're all
Yeah,
sick and they're not looking good. That
yeah,
stress
and then it's
plays an
like,
impact on a cellular level.
yeah, and it's like, is that who I future projecting myself? Is that who I want to be if I stay here? Yeah, and then you got choices to make. So having that holistic approach is I find it's all interconnected. I find business, health, relationships, how you spend your time, the environment you create for yourself. It's all an interconnected
Mm,
ecosystem, and that ecosystem is going to essentially determine how you actually feel, the level of fulfillment, the level of connection with others, with yourself, with your soul. And it's an inner sensation. So the more that ecosystem is intact, and you're not letting like one category drain completely and another one fill
right.
completely, and you're keeping things in check so that
Mhm.
it's moving more together, it's going to create more harmony in your life. It's going to create more stability. It's going
Mhm.
to create more ease. It's going to feel more natural and less forceful. And it's going to create less disease and illness and help you enjoy life every year, every day longer over the long game.
Right.
So it's a long, term, it's a longer game approach, and it's
Mhm.
putting your health as number one. Like you priority wise, you're without your health, you can't show up to your relationships, you can't show up to your
No,
job, you can't be the
yeah.
person you want to be, you can't create the reality you want. So
You can't
health is,
enjoy life the way you want to. Right.
yeah, totally. So health is number one. And I
Yeah.
will never try to make more money that, and if it's going to damage my health or my relationships, I just won't.
Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful
because
guideline. Yeah.
yeah, because it's like health, relationships, environment, then money, honestly,
Mhm.
is kind of number four on my list. So that's how I've reshifted the values, in my life for how I show up to my life and where I put my time and what's the highest priority.
Right. This process takes a lot of awareness and like continually checking in with yourself.
Totally. It's a like I said, like in how I do my daily routine and check in with my
Hmm.
goals. And it's being in tune with, yeah, where you're at, how you're feeling yesterday, making corrections and getting a bit of it's like a lifestyle system. It's like
Right.
a system or a procedure or whatever you want to call it that
Hmm.
you can count on, that you build into your life, so it becomes habit, checking in
Hmm.
with these things, feeling these things. And a good way to start is, what's your health right now out of 10? 1 out of 10. What are your
Hmm.
relationships? What would you give them 1 out of 10?
Right.
What would your time and money and or time and environment,
Oh.
where you spend your time and what your environment is like 1 out of 10, and your money and your business 1 out of 10.
This is funny. This
And
is very much how first sessions for me with clients start is just like, yeah, let's assess the different domains of your life. What's going on in each of them? How do you feel? How satisfied are you?
yeah, exactly. So then
Hmm.
it gives that, clarity around if, sometimes you're stuck over here because this one's so low.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to get this one up to here before this one will go again. So
Hmm.
it's this constant,
We're
checking
like
in with these
cogs in a
different,
clock. Everything is clicking along.
yeah, totally.
Hmm.
Totally. And if it gets out of whack under the surface, disease and illness and disharmony starts to build within the body, and it starts to show up in your life as well. It'll start to show up in your
Right.
relationships. It'll show up in your career. Life can feel so much more like in alignment, like
Mhm.
relationships. All these components can feel, quite good. And of course, there's always going to be conflict and different things that come up.
Mhm.
But it's just sitting here reflecting on it all, how my life used to feel and how it used to look, and going to
Yeah.
work and going to the gym to try to get healthy, doing these things, and versus how it feels now. It's like, wow, what a night and day difference. And life
Mm.
can really feel good in a lot of different areas,
Yeah. Yeah.
overall,
I'm starting to feel the flow. I'm getting there.
yeah, no, you're you're doing great at it. You made a lot of growth in the time that we spent together, um with your mindset and
It
your
was good.
energy. And
Yeah. It
yeah,
helped. It helped. And it's helped me know when to find that ebb and flow and lean into not just being so focused in one area. So I think that that's just a really valuable tool that you get to teach other people. And I feel really grateful for your time today. Thank you, Neil.
yes, thank you for having me on. It's awesome talking to
Yeah,
you.
I
Yeah.
know. So if you want to find Neil, how can they reach out to you? If
um
they're an entrepreneur who is wanting to find some more balance and alignment, are you looking to take on some more people?
Yeah, I would be open to it. I think the best place to go would just be my Instagram page,
Yeah,
and follow my Instagram page and send me a message if you're interested in discussing anything that I do. If you're an entrepreneur who's into personal transformation and you're wanting to break out into the world and share your gift with more people, definitely reach out to me, and we can have a chat and go
great.
from there.
We'll
So,
include that in the comments for this episode. And thank you so much, Neil. Thank you so much for joining us, Neil. And if you would please like, subscribe, and share Delightfully Dysfunctional with anyone that you know, that helps us so much, and we appreciate that. And we will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.